Did you know that a staggering 80% of Americans believe that most politicians are corrupt? This isn't just a random statistic, it reflects a deep-seated distrust in our leaders. In fact, a Gallup poll found that only 11% of people think Congress is doing a good job. It's clear that many feel disconnected from those they elected to serve. But why is this the case? Welcome to a world where good intentions can quickly turn into bad actions. The journey of a career politician often starts with hope and idealism. However, as they climb the political ladder, many lose their way, succumbing to greed, power struggles, and hidden agendas. What starts as a desire to serve the public can transform into a game of self-preservation. In this video, we will explore the many ways career politicians can become corrupt. We'll look at how idealism turns into opportunism, the psychological addiction to power, and how lobbyists and money sway their decisions. You'll hear real-life scandals that expose the rotten core of political systems and discover potential solutions to restore trust in our government. Join us as we uncover the shocking truths behind the scenes of politics. Prepare to see your elected officials in a whole new light. Chapter 1: From Idealism to Opportunism, the Career Politician's Dilemma. Many politicians begin their careers with a desire to make the world a better place. In fact, most are driven by some form of idealism. They have strong beliefs, want to serve their community, and believe in the power of government to improve people's lives. But as time goes on, the political landscape changes them. This shift isn't immediate, it's gradual, almost invisible. Consider the 2014 Harvard study, which found that over 70% of Americans feel their elected officials don't care what they think. Why does this happen? One reason is that as politicians become careerists, their focus often drifts away from their constituents and toward maintaining power. The drive for re-election becomes more important than the drive for reform. To stay in office, they compromise, often aligning themselves with party insiders or big donors. This is the dilemma of the career politician. They need to play the game to survive, but playing the game comes with strings attached. Political author Thomas Frank puts it bluntly in Listen, Liberal, the system isn't broken, it's working for the people it's supposed to work for, those in power. As the years in office accumulate, so does the gap between their ideals and their actions. They must often choose between sticking to their principles or taking the easier road of appeasement to preserve their influence. This isn't to say that all politicians begin corrupt. But the pressures are immense, and over time, their original mission is slowly pushed aside. Idealism fades, and opportunism becomes a survival strategy. We see this pattern repeatedly, and it's easy to understand why so many voters feel jaded. Career politicians don't simply represent their districts anymore, they represent a system that requires them to sacrifice authenticity for stability. Chapter 2: The Power Addiction. How long in office twists the mind. Power is intoxicating. It's an undeniable fact that the longer someone holds onto power, the more difficult it becomes to let go. In politics, this addiction to power is especially dangerous. A study from the Leadership Quarterly showed that people in power for extended periods often become less empathetic and more controlling. The same holds true for career politicians. When politicians stay in office for years, they often become disconnected from the people they serve. It's as if they stop seeing themselves as public servants and start viewing themselves as irreplaceable figures. They justify every action as being for the greater good, but in reality, they're simply addicted to the influence and prestige that come with holding office. This isn't just a theory, history backs it up. The average tenure of US senators is about 10 years, and the longer they stay, the more likely they are to vote in favor of policies that benefit their inner circle. A Brookings Institution report showed that the longer a politician serves, the more likely they are to vote in ways that align with special interests rather than public interests. Author George Orwell wrote in Animal Farm, "Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely." For career politicians, the truth in this statement becomes all too real. Over time, the need to maintain their position outweighs the need to make real changes. Their legacy becomes more about how long they stayed in office, not what they achieved while there. Term limits are often proposed as a solution to prevent this power addiction. Limiting the time any politician can serve helps break the cycle, forcing fresh faces and ideas into the political system. However, many politicians fight term limits because they, too, are trapped by the very addiction they wish to deny. Once they're in, it's hard to step away. Chapter 3: Lobbyists and Money. The Subtle Road to Compromise. Lobbyists have become a staple in modern politics, and with them comes a constant temptation for career politicians to make compromises. According to a report from Open Secrets, over $3.5 billion was spent on lobbying in 2022 alone in the US. The influence of money in politics has become so widespread that it's almost impossible to separate public policy from private interests. But why do career politicians fall into this trap? The answer is simple: money equals power in Washington. Re-election campaigns are expensive. A Senate campaign, for example, can easily cost upwards of $10 million. To raise that kind of money, politicians rely on donors, many of whom have their own agendas. And that's where the slippery slope begins. A lobbyist's job is to push for laws and regulations that benefit their clients. They donate to politicians' campaigns, host fundraisers, and provide insider advice on legislation. Over time, the line between representing the people and representing special interests becomes blurred. In the book Dark Money, Jane Mayer reveals how billionaires use political donations to influence policies in their favor. Career politicians, needing financial support to stay in office, often end up doing the bidding of these powerful few, even if it means compromising on their own principles. The subtlety of this process is key. Politicians don't wake up one day deciding to sell out, they make small concessions over time, each one justified as necessary. The more money they accept, the more beholden they become to the donors. And once they're on this path, it's nearly impossible to reverse. In fact, a Princeton study found that public opinion has little to no effect on public policy when compared to the interests of elite donors and lobbyists. This shows just how deeply rooted the influence of money is in our political system. The slow road to compromise often starts with a single donation, but as career politicians continue down that road, they find themselves far from where they began, no longer representing the people, but representing the highest bidder. If you're enjoying this exploration of political corruption, don't forget to subscribe for more eye-opening content. We'll dive deeper into the dark side of politics in the next chapters. Chapter 4: Public Servant or Puppet Master. The hidden agendas behind the mask. Many politicians present themselves as public servants, but behind the scenes, they often have hidden agendas. These agendas can include personal power, party loyalty, or securing future opportunities after their political careers. The image they show to the public rarely aligns with what's happening behind closed doors. In his book Winner Take All Politics, Jacob Hacker explains how many politicians manipulate their positions to benefit the wealthiest few, all while maintaining a public image of serving the average voter. This balancing act of looking out for the people while securing personal gains is something that career politicians excel at. It's not necessarily because they are evil, it's because they learn to play the game of politics. Take the revolving door strategy, where politicians leave office only to land high-paying jobs with companies or industries they once regulated. The Project on Government Oversight found that over half of lawmakers who leave Congress end up as lobbyists or consultants. It's clear why their actions while in office sometimes favor future employers rather than the public. When politicians know they have lucrative opportunities waiting for them in the private sector, it becomes harder for them to act solely in the public's interest. They might pass legislation that benefits a specific industry, knowing that once their political career ends, a comfortable corporate job will be waiting. This is a strategy of survival, but one that leaves voters feeling misled. In her book This Changes Everything, Naomi Klein talks about how politicians use environmental policies as a political tool, often stalling real progress because of their ties to big oil or coal. These hidden agendas are what make it difficult for politicians to truly serve the public, as their personal interests begin to outweigh their public responsibilities. So, are they public servants, or puppet masters? It depends on who's pulling the strings. Career politicians often find themselves stuck between keeping their public face clean and making sure they don't burn bridges with powerful allies behind the scenes. Unfortunately, in this balancing act, the public's best interests often take a backseat. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into political corruption, be sure to subscribe for more insights. Together, we can push for the change we want to see in our political system.